Happy 2016, everybody. If you guys are not watching live, catching us on the replay, welcome to the YouTube channel, 2016. There are some things that I definitely want to talk about tonight, and it's not just tournament related. It's going to be some hobby related. Kind of the title of the episode today is New Beginnings, New Year. What do you think, Justin?
Well, I have a confession to make. I'm now the owner of an Eldar army. So I definitely have some new beginnings to discuss.
Well, I learned some things today. Now, I've been planning this kind of – I wrote an article, and I don't think it's hit Bulls yet, but it's basically what to do. What are we doing here this year? After money's tight with like gifts and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's – man – the holiday season's for gamers especially, because this is such a it's such a niche thing, and disposable income around this time of year is tough, man. And so like the ideas that you're bringing forward to kind of stretch that dollar and still keep it on in a way, I really thought that some of those ideas that you were shooting out were amazing. I can't wait to see the polished product.
Well, I started doing a little bit of research because I want to. I've got a whole Grey Knight army and a whole Blood Angel army and a Luna Wolf army that are now on 32 millimeter. They're on 25 millimeter bases right now.
Yeah.
But we know that it's tactically better to have them on 32 millimeter bases, and they do look nice. I can't argue with how they look.
Yeah, it definitely it gives it more of a dynamic feel to the model, and the tactical stuff. I mean, that just goes without saying.
Yeah, so I started doing a little bit of research on how to rebase these figures. Well, I found a bunch of 32 mil blanks. You can get that from your game store. You can get that from eBay. You can get that from, certainly places like DiceHead.
Yep.
If you shop on that, and so I thought, okay, got the bases. Now what next? So then I started looking around at Games Workshop's texture paint, because you can just put that stuff on with the resin bases that I have on my Blood Angels and Luna Wolves. They kind of snap off pretty easy because I don't know, either I didn't wash the resin well enough or whatever. But anyway, it's not going to be difficult for me to get them off there. So I'm thinking it's just going to be quick. I can then spend a couple of weeks rebasing each squad at a time, making them look nice, because in a lot of painting rubrics out there, that basing is key. So I like to have at least 3 different elements.
I like that, yeah. Get some depth to the base too, because you always hear the old adage, like, don't overdo the base because it'll take away from the model. But I've always kind of disagreed with that. I felt like the base needs to be dynamic in itself, because it's telling a story just as much as the model.
Yeah, and you want it to be obviously consistent and stuff with across the whole forces you've got. And with allies now, I started basing my army very similarly. So I can mix and match my Imperial, the Imperial soup as we call it. I can mix and match them together. So long story short, I then started thinking, like, man, the Games Workshop texture paint is great, but it's not cheap.
It does take quite a bit, and it just depends, I suppose, on like the level of texture that you're actually wanting to build up. If you get some like the slate and stuff from some of the third parties, and you're really liberal and only build up certain spots, you can stretch it. But basing an entire, in our case, like an entire collection,
right? I think corkboard. Corkboard replaces that slate for very inexpensively. You can go to Hobby Lobby and get whatever, a sheet of corkboard meant for putting inside of drawers and that kind of stuff for absolutely next to nothing.
Oh yeah, $5 will make you have enough cork for a lifetime.
Yeah, pretty much. And I've gone even further, because I still kind of want to do this texture paint. Well, I found out that Vallejo makes a tub, 230 milliliters worth of textured base material.
Up.
Yeah, and it's like $13-14, and it is roughly 89 times what I think. I think that the pot for Games Workshop is 12 milliliter,
Yeah.
or something like that. So, again, 230 milliliter, it's this big, essentially
it's a jug,
of,
in essence.
of stuff that goes on it behaves the exact same way.
That's awesome, man.
But I'm not done.
Vallejo so much awesome. Like, yeah. I mean, they're just so much better.
I'm not done. All right. Turns out Liquitex makes one as well.
Really?
Liquitex is the actual artist, one of the actual artist brands.
Yeah. Like what is it? Like a Gesso, or is this like legit?
No, this is Liquitex. I think they have something called like Black Lava and Basalt something or whatever, but it's meant for. I don't know if it's like scenery. I don't know what they're for. All right, okay. I'm not going to claim it to know what they're for, but people build villages and stuff, and
yeah, but it works just the same. So.
It goes on the exact same way.
Now, what's the price point on that per size? Because I use a lot of Liquitex.
It's the same size. It's the same size as the Vallejo jug or pot. The container of Vallejo.
Yeah.
But it's like $1 or $2 cheaper.
Really, that's unusual.
So then, if you go and you get like a coupon for this Hobby Lobby or Michael's or 40% whatever,
40% off, the best Google coupon ever.
Then you're getting a lifetime supply of basing material.
Oh man!
So you go and you get your cork, and then you get your Liquitex or Vallejo basing. Now this is just for a new army. Now I use what is it? The dark brown one from Games Workshop on my Chaos.
Strickland Mud or something. Maybe?
Sterling Mud. That's it. Yeah,
I was close.
Yeah, I use that on all my my armies for Chaos, and I love that color. But if I'm going to be redoing an entire army, essentially 3 entire armies that I all want to look similarly, I want to try to get the most bang from a buck.
Yeah. Oh man, like I always I go through basing more than I go through underwear. So.
Well, the game's not budget friendly, So anytime you can find like a cheat, a hack, I'm not an artist, you're not an artist, so we're going to call them cheats. Other artists would call them techniques. Like artists call them techniques.
Oh no, I'm all about the cheat.
Yeah.
Let's not get
so anytime that we can, I think find this kind of short circuit to the hemorrhaging of hobby budget, and I think I can turn this into 3-4 hours, 3-4 weeks maybe of working on hobby stuff that's not just meticulously painting a miniature, and make a big impact on what I do with my games.
Yeah, that's huge too, man. Because you're literally talking like less than $20, and almost anybody can find less than $20 to spare. No matter
if you're playing this game, if you're a player of this game.
Yeah. Because we're throwing $50, $60, $100 at a small chunk of plastic. But if you're taking less than $20 in a lot of cases, and you're throwing this down, like you said, and there's so many different things you can do. You can build up different variants of your basing, where you have like a whole battlefield in mind. So if you have your Space Wolves on this part of the battlefield, it might be a little bit more like muddy and a little bit murky, and then it might dry up a little bit, and there might be like a little bit of patchy grass in between, and it still all fits within the theme, especially if you do your display board in the same manner, and you still have plenty of material left over for the display board. You, sir, just stumbled on a gem. I'm looking for $20 right now. I can't find it because my room's a mess, but
let me see if I can find the actual name of the Liquitex and Vallejo while we're talking here.
Yeah, because okay, so while you're looking that up, I base and rebase and again base and take everything off of a base, my armies, on, I would say, almost a quarterly cycle. I've yet to find like a basing that I really like, and I've spent tons of money in trying to get little doodads from like Home Depot, and when I was trying to get my AdMech basing done, and I was like, you know what, like I'm gonna play my Blood Angels on these AdMech bases. I didn't like it, and I spent weeks, and I want to say close to $100 on materials. But when you go for that simplistic, all in your control design and keeping it within a budget, dude, you can't go wrong. And sometimes less is more in a lot of cases, but you can still be extremely dynamic with a base.
It looks like the
while still doing
Liquitech stuff
less.
is called the textured gels,
Okay.
and they've got like resin sand is and here's blended fiber.
Ooh.
Anyway, the opaque. Here's white opaque flakes, which looks just like snow. Again,
What?
results may vary, man, but like check it out. And I'm looking at a site right now where it's $10 for 8 ounces.
Yeah.
You know,
So
that's
I mean,
a lot.
yeah. I mean, you're gonna go to your Hobby Lobby and you're gonna get that, pint, whatever, 16 ounces
It's
for a
half
little
pint,
bit. Yeah, something like that. I'm not good at math, all right.
Hey, it's fine. It's fine.
But you get those bottles. They run between 15 to like $20 on average. Like retail. So throw your 40% off on that bad boy, and you're saving tons of money. It's annoying having to go like roundabout, but dude, I do it all the time.
Well, if you're going to use cork, and I'm not saying that's the be all end all, it looks fine. Especially you paint it, you got to paint it. You can't just leave it on as it is.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be using cork and you're going to be going there anyway to get it, and you want to get this other stuff, then this is just whatever. Nobody has to take this advice. I'm just putting it out there as I didn't know this existed until a very short time ago, and I want to make sure other people know it exists.
Honestly, too, like a lot of people complain about pricing. The GW stuff is actually really reasonable for how much you get for their basing kits. Some of them are like closer to $30, I believe, but you can base a lot of things with that. Yeah, once you start trying to do like an Imperial Knight base or something like that, you're running into an issue. But if you're doing 100 Marines, that $20-$30 kit is going to do your 100 Marines easily.
Man, I'm telling you, never buy that kit. I don't tell people not to buy stuff. Don't buy that kit. Go out to your driveway and bust up a piece of the curb.
I mean, there's slate though. It's just for the lazy man. If you got more money than time kind of person like me sometimes, then to me, I really do enjoy what they've done. It is inflated. It is GW pricing, but the value of time saving is there, in my opinion, and the scale is like on point.
Well, obviously you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Trying to get Andrew in here right now. He is struggling. Sometimes just Google Hangouts just doesn't want to work.
Yeah.
So to you folks that found us,
my freaking thing was all like you couldn't hear me.
To you folks, John, Dean, Steve, thanks for logging in today and posting some in the comments. I know it is again, it's the Monday. Things are getting back to normal. I went back to work today.
Oh man, what a case of the Mondays.
Yeah.
I went into work this morning and it was just everybody was just moping. Shoulders were hunched and heads were low. It was so funny. I was like, man.
All right, you entertain the people. I'm going to see what I can do here.
So I've been working on some stuff. All right, so I'm gonna cover like this Eldar thing because everybody's going to be listening to this over time, and everybody right now are probably like, wait, you're playing Eldar? You hate Eldar? Yes, but I hate Tau more, and Eldar killed the crap out of Tau. And so Adepticon's coming up. We're going to be talking about that in depth. But we're looking at an Eldar kind of camaraderie of events here. So I've gotten a smorgasbord of stuff, and I've been doing some play testing and stuff like that, trying to really understand the ins and outs of Eldar. I've played against them a lot, but I've never actually used them. And I've come to find out that you learn a lot more when you actually play the army versus just playing against it. So I'm doing play test after play test. I've yet to jump into the psychic phase. All you guys know I hate the psychic phase, but it undeniably makes the Eldar a lot stronger in a lot of aspects. So the Wraith Knight, it's strong. It does the Lord's work. I still am not a fan of it. I think that there's a little bit more to it. If it had a 2+ save, I think I would join everybody in saying this is the craziest unit ever. But
sometimes it just breaks out, and there's just nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had in my play testing yet. I haven't had like that. oh my god, Wraith Knights. I did run 4 of them at once in one play test, and I was like, wow, that was a bit much. But my opponent was able to tear down 2 of them, but then 2 Wraith Knights in your face is more than enough to do a lot of damage. And I was running all sword and board, by the way. None of the D shots yet.
Well, I mean, that's in the environment now where we're going to have storm surges and super tunas.
Yeah,
the sword and shield is pretty much probably where it's at. And if you're playing in an environment that nerfs the D shots.
Yeah, and that was my biggest thing is I do want to start participating a little bit more in the ITC circuits. And if I'm going to be going and traveling to the LVOs and the BAOs and some of their larger GTs, my thought process right now is I don't want to play Eldar like our way, our no preservatives added, no hold barred 40K, and then travel to an event and have to really rethink how I'm playing. So I'm in my
mind. You're going to run into that. You're going to run into that everywhere.
Yeah.
It's as far as like, I mean, let's just take, for instance, how we did things here in Atlanta and how other events are doing mimicking what we do. Well, other events are going to be that way. People are going to mimic what Adepticon does, which has its own thing. People are going to mimic what the LVO is doing, and people are going to mimic what the Nova's doing. So that's always going to be the case. And I think that's part of the fun, though.
Yeah. In my mind, though, if I know for a fact, like I'm really only going to be traveling to Adepticon, I'm really only going to be traveling to go see Frankie and Reese down in Vegas, which is my hometown, by the way. So it's like added bonus. I get to go to Vegas, hang out with Frankie and Reese, lose terribly in a tournament, and visit my family at the same time.
Hey.
But I want to keep a consistency across what I'm playing. And I think that by trying to find that middle ground where I'm going to run a Wraith Knight or I'm going to run multiple Wraith Knights, I want to avoid relying on that D-shot version. If I need a shooting list, I'm still going to play the D-shot, because even with nerfs, the D-shot's still strong. It's still going to do what it does. It's just not going to do it quite as effectively.
It is.
And that's how, like, when a lot of people, they want to complain about the D-shot sometimes, like, oh, like, nerf it. I mean, it's still really opening up anything that it shoots, so I don't really understand the whole, like, I need it nerfed thing, but to each his own.
Well, it's a singular one is not, it's manageable.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we're talking about,
oh yeah, if you spam 4 of them, then
things, that's
increasing the odds of getting a 6 is going to make a feel bad time.
Yeah.
So by limiting how many Wraith Knights you can take, I somewhat agree with that. But limiting the strength values and stuff like that, to me, like, that's just not my favorite brand of 40K. I know that it's become a little bit more acceptable. So, it's just one of those things now where, in my mind, I just don't even think D exists unless it stomps or melee.
Stomps are no joke.
Yeah.
It's as far as like different things, different environments. I think it's great. I'm going to a tournament in South Carolina here in a couple of weeks.
Scared, right?
Yep. And I'm going to be bringing probably some Eldar obnoxiousness. I just don't think I couldn't find my Nurglings, and I don't think I've got time to mess around.
Am I going to have to like mill you the rest of my Nurgle army?
If you got Nurglings, man, I needed them, a little while ago. That's for sure.
I do. I'd have to find them, but
yeah, find some. Let me know how many of those Nurglings you got, because I don't think I've got enough to complete my viciousness.
This is the bombard list that you've been talking about, right?
Yeah, but I went to a swap meet. The local game store here organizes swap meets. And I think they used to do them kind of frequently, but they switched to doing them once a quarter. And I think they're great. I took up some stuff that I was never going to use. I thought, one of these things, I bought it, I thought I was going to use it. Ended up knew I was never going to use it several years later at this point. Took it there, traded it, did some actual out-and-out trades, did some selling for store credit, and what I bought, I was able to turn it into a drop pod, a Terminator Librarian, which I want to use for the Grey Knights. I was able to pick up the Armada Rogues and Villains, Scoundrels and Villains squadron set, the one with Slave One and Millennium Falcon and that stuff in it.
Nice.
Um, let's see, a Batman. I got a Batman for the Batman game.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, just, what else? A handful of bits. Somebody had some of those old Space Wolf backpacks with the wolf heads on them.
Oh, those are clutch, man.
So I got
I've been
those.
having to buy those from I think it's Cromlech.
Yeah, Cromlech makes some. Yeah, and
Yeah,
they're very, very similar.
yeah. I've been buying the crap out of those because I just love those more.
Yeah.
But
Oh, they're
then
good.
I'm static with like everybody's got the same backpack on.
Andrew, you made it. Can you hear us? He can. Almost
I have
made it.
arrived, although
Okay, good.
I can hear you just fine. I don't know
Okay,
if you can hear me.
I got you.
You are coming in, brother. Coming
Yeah,
in.
glad you
I
made
just
it.
assume that this is failing on my part.
You're good, man.
Well, what do
Yeah,
you do?
it's good to be here. It's a
Yeah.
miracle.
What do you, I mean? Google. I said Google Hangouts. I just mentioned is sometimes it just betrays you at any level. But I'm glad you made it. We're
Well,
talking
it's
about the
crazy.
swap
The
meet.
first time I logged in, it was the ones at Gigabytes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was this past weekend, and I was able
Yeah,
to pick
they're
up. I mean,
awesome.
lots of people were making good stuff.
I like. I know Carl. He posts some of the game stores that they have down there. They have like a huge swap meet, and I'm always so jealous of those because there's not one around here really. There's
Well,
tons of game stores here, but
the
none of
way
them are
it
big
works,
enough yet.
the way it works for the store anyway is that whenever you do you don't do any cash sales between participants.
Mhm.
If someone wants to buy something from me, they go up to the store and basically give the store the cash, and the store puts it on my account for store credit, and then I'm able to spend out of that store credit.
I
So
like that, though.
the store makes its margin.
Yeah, keep money at the store.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to pay the bills. Like they're
Yeah.
they're
Oh,
they're floating the bill to have that table, pay the lights,
yeah.
all that stuff. So I love that
I'm
concept.
completely fine. I'm also completely fine turning my hobby stuff into other hobby stuff.
Oh yeah,
It
I
really,
got Cataphrons.
really, the store is just facilitating the transfer from one hobby to another, or
Yeah.
you're basically just like you're recycling hobby funds.
Yeah.
If you break down though, like how much it costs a store, like per person, it's like absurd. Like just like the 6x4 table, and like the area that we populate for X amount of time a year. Like if we're not spending X amount of dollars, like they're losing money. So you got to do everything in your power to
Man,
fill that for that store. And keep it going.
we're big, I guess, proponents of some Dice Head
Yeah.
because they're great, but mostly because they're a great friend of mine. And like I said, there's some of the best people in the hobby, like quality of people. I'll never get tired of saying that.
And they throw
We
a good
support
party.
the dudes at Frontline with their Fat Mat efforts in Table War. So we definitely support a bunch of online retailers because they're friends of ours, and they're quality people, and they provide a great service. But we also talk about support your local game store, and that's kind of our hierarchy, I would say. But when you go to the game store, heck, if you go in there just to browse, buy a Coke or two. I mean, even that 30
helps.
cents or whatever, 50 cents they might make on that could go a long way that day, especially if everyone that comes in the store does it.
Yeah, it all adds up, and like I'm blessed to have the opportunity to visit. I want to say I have like 7 game stores like within like 30 minutes, right?
That's insane. That's nuts.
Yeah, but none of them are like that big yet, though. The largest one, thank God, they just moved way closer to my house too. The largest one, it's got a good selection, good amount of tables and stuff like that, but the 40K community isn't as vibrant there. So I'm sitting here I got all kinds of stuff I'm doing on the back burner trying to revive that and get 40K there. But I go to the GW store more than any other store here, and it's the furthest out of my way. But when in my
That's
brain,
hilarious.
Yeah, right. I make no sense. Well, nobody does discounts here either. None of the local stores discount here, so you're paying full price no matter where you go. But in my brain, GW does this cool thing where they launch a store. There's a whole marketing campaign, and they do all this research. the community here is big enough to warrant a GW store. That means there's enough players around to actually find games. Now, creating a actual spot to do that in is the hardest part. So, I'm going to be announcing probably in the next few months, weeks, probably before Adepticon, but I'm really going to be hitting hard in the tournament scene here in the Hampton Roads area, Virginia Beach, and that's where this store is big enough to support it. I just need them to open their eyes that 40K is the more prominent game and War Machine is loot.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when I was in 40K purgatory for 3 years when I was in law school. You would think that Athens, Georgia would have a big gaming community, but for the first 2 years I was there, it was nobody. I remember, this is how nerdy I was. I went to the student hall, the student union, and put up flyers that was like, hey, I was so desperate for games. I got 3 games a month, and that's when I drove to Atlanta for the Atlanta 40K series.
Wow.
And then I guess it was midway through my 2L year, or I guess maybe a couple months left of my second year at law school, a local game store opened up called Dragon Star Hobbies, which Joe Teskey is the guy who owns it. Joe Teskey, Dwight Tomlinson, great guys, big fans of the show, and they were so enthusiastic. They were like, hey, we just need a guy who's charismatic enough to organize the scene, to get 40K going. And so I was like, well, put it on me. Let me start a league. And we had our first league that I ran there, my fall semester of my third year law school, had 28 players. And then the second,
all they needed was an excuse. That's great. You gave them one.
And to your point though about supporting the local game stores, if you can build a community, if you build it, they will come. And I remember we were at a big gaming night. Wednesday nights were the 40K game nights, when all the league games would happen. So you'd have 6, 7, 8 tables going at once, all 1,200-point league games or whatever.
That's awesome.
And some kid was there, and he was talking about, he was an IG player, and he wanted to buy something like Manticores or something like that, and he was like, and Joe was like, well, the owner was like, I'll give you 15% off because you're playing in store. And the kid kind of was hemming and hawing, and then Joe walked off. He says, well, I can get it online for 25% off, or I'll go up buy it on eBay. And I looked at him and I go, oh, so are you gonna play your league game on eBay? Are you gonna play this game online? Because you're not. You're playing it in his store. So you might as well spend the $4 extra and spend it in his shop and give it.
That's really what it comes down to. Sometimes it is simply a few extra dollars. Now, a few extra dollars can break the bank. I'm not telling people what to do with their cash or their time. But what your point is, if you don't respect those areas, then they disappear.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's
very hard to keep a community alive, especially in those kind of markets where if a store does offer you a discount, God, you should jump on it right away, because he's taking money out of his own pocket at that point.
Absolutely. And
never in the history. I couldn't wrap my brain around that.
And we're not going to the three of us aren't going to play games. I mean, with the exception of the actual GW store, which is an economic anomaly.
Lost leaders. They're lost leaders.
I think that's where I've played most of my games here, actually.
Well, you are giving them a bad impression of what actually happens.
Yeah, I know. Oh, and the manager, the current manager at ours, he's just such a cool guy. So I love his passion and everything. He's that dude that's he's spot on, but you're only a store manager, so you're never going to convince these guys way up here what really needs to happen.
Andrew, before you got on, we were talking about budget hobby things. I dropped an awesome tip for some budget rebasing of an army, or several armies, as the case may be. Is there anything that you're going to be working on the next few weeks or so, just hobby related?
I mean, I'm painting Adepticon army. That counts. And we have not quite nailed down the color scheme yet for we're playing Space Marines, but we're all playing different chapters of Space Marines. And I ended up playing Blood Angels, but I already have 7,000-8,000 points of red guys. So I'm painting them yellow and making them Lamenters.
I love it.
Okay, yeah. That's a cool color scheme.
I think it's one of the coolest successor chapters out there. They're really neat. It's very challenging. But I will say this. I will say this to anybody who's out there thinking, hey, I may or may not rebase my army. I rebased every single Blood Angels Marine that I own from the 20 mils to the 32s. It's like, Emily, my girlfriend, and then putting Marines on 32 millimeter bases. Two best decisions of my life. Like, absolutely, it is so far superior. It's incredible.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that at first.
You brought us back, though. You brought us back. I was like, okay, I'm gonna not say anything till he's done and see how far this goes.
Oh man.
I agree. So I'm doing, just to recap real quickly, I'm doing the Lunar Wolves, the Blood Angels, and Grey Knights. I'm redoing them all on 32 mils. Yeah, that is my beginning of the year hobby project.
I kind of wish I wouldn't have thrown away all my 25 mil stuff when I did switch to 32 mils, because I have all these Xenos Eldar that need to be on 25 mils. Oops.
See, or you could just do what I do and refuse to play Xenos lists, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Two people on this show right now are going to win the Adepticon team tournament, and one of us isn't.
Hey, but think of how much. I mean, we've set the internet. I'll believe it. This is going to be a good year for the FTN Adepticon team. I can promise you that.
Yeah, as long as I don't get completely smashed by, let's say, 8:05. We're going to be good.
In the morning, yeah.
Yes. It's been known to happen, so
guys, we have set the internet on fire with this Castle of the Damned tech that we've been dropping on folks.
Yo, I've been preaching this dude forever, and now all of a sudden TPM's like, Castler's awesome.
Well, okay, the real deal is that the units themselves, when isolated, pretty much suck. Like when they came out. This is before the new Blood Angel book came out. Remember, we got this teaser thing, and they were like, "These suck." This Riffin's Death Company. They're fixed equipment. They're 1 trillion points, so they're not any good.
Yeah, it was like 225 points of worthless.
Pretty much.
Yep.
But now that those are
it was 225 points of not optimized, right? Because you had to take an Infernus pistol on a guy who was separate from the power weapon, who was separate from the Thunderhammer. Like in a normal Death Company squad, you might want to have a power sword and a Thunderhammer and potentially an Infernus pistol, but the combination thereof is going to be very different, right?
Yeah, so the way that the hand flamer and the power, whatever, it was just
exactly. It was just not optimized. I might take each and every one of those things in a Death Company squad, but not all together.
Yeah, not the way that it was laid out.
But making them troops,
Yeah, that's it. So now we're big proponents of dynamic missions with things like objectives that matter or kill points that matter, and even the casual gamers are picking this up to play their games with. Not necessarily our missions, but just that style of mission.
The concept of the mission, yeah.
And so this stuff matters. And if you can pick a fun themey, because it's very themed. It's a named dreadnought. It's like the Last Chancers. It's a very themey unit, but now performs a very powerful role within the game.
Yeah. What I liked about him was what I've always preached about him is here's your choice: 2 scout squads or even 3 scout squads. Or that dude, for me, if you drop him in the right spot, he's going to do the Lord's work. His rules are really good for his point cost if you're able to put him where you want him. Yes, don't drop him next to intercepting Melta. I mean, duh. But other than that, though, he's going to get his points back.
Well, it's like a Mauler fiend. In the way, and people always give me crap with my choice. Whenever I play Chaos, I take 2 or so Mauler fiends.
Yeah, they're super strong.
Fiends. So it's again, people get so rutted in the internet net list. They just don't even bother reading the back of the book. They don't thoroughly vet the supplements, etc., etc. There's some glorious things hidden in there, and a 145 point or 135 point dreadnought with rage, ignores crew shaken, crew stunned, blood talons, all these things.
I think he's
where
got a mag grappler too, right? I think.
he's got a magnum grapple in there, so you're ignoring cover or move through cover and rerolling charge range against vehicles. He's strength 10, AP 2, rerolling to wound with the shred rule. Yep. I mean, he's great. You hit somebody with 6-7 of those attacks, he'll chew through them, and then you can nitpick like, well, how does he fit well into a list? Well, suddenly now that he's a troop choice, that means I can take a dreadnought in the HQ choice, I can take a dreadnought in the troops choice, and then with certain formations for the Blood Angels, I can get 3 or 4 or 5 elites choices. So now at under 1,000 points, all of a sudden this guy for under 1,000 points and a street legal like CAD list, he's got 4 dreadnoughts or 5 dreadnoughts in drop pods. At AV13, because the Furiosas are AV13, like that's nothing to sneeze at. That's fun, fluffy list builds that you can kind of pick and choose from. And then, Paul and I were talking about this last week. The Lucius drop pod is 15 points more expensive and about 100 points better than a regular drop pod.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so you get, somebody gets a wild hair and burns a little Christmas money and ends up with 2-3 Lucius drop pods. Well, now that's a real problem for a Tau player, right? Are you going to go ahead and intercept my drop pod? Go for it. Who's got 2 thumbs and is happy about that? This guy. You just blew up a drop pod and flushed all your tubes. Now I've just got a fully fine dreadnought just eating there, right? So
just hanging out.
And you can't, and that guy can't. He can either intercept it this turn or shoot it next turn. But either way, my dreadnought's going to crawl out of there and assault you, right? It's a way to defeat interceptor. And then the way those rules are worded, and I hate to be that rules lawyer guy, but it says if they draw a line of fire across any part of the pod, including the doors, then the unit they're shooting
You're not even nitpicking. That's what it says.
That's what it says, right? And like it's just frustrating people because they're like, oh, doors don't count, but like no, it explicitly says the doors do count.
In the rule, it says doors,
And anybody behind you gets shrouded. So lo and behold, I drop this Lucius pod in front of a 5-up, just a regular piece of terrain, like a forest or something, or just ahead of it, and then deep strike my Sanguinary Guard behind them. Now if you want to shoot my Sanguinary Guard, I'm looking at a 2+ armor, 3+ cover, the tack squads, or I get my Dreadnought out, and now my Dreadnought has a 3+ cover save, and
or Storm Ravens.
Ooh.
Storm Ravens, which is a preposterous thing to think about, but
it's a column of smoke. I don't know what it is.
A column of smoke. Yeah, exactly. Like it's the Storm Raven. You just
I guess. Yeah.
Like so now am I jinking Storm Ravens a 2+ cover save? Like, and harkening back to the Cast of the Damned argument, like he's a troops choice. He fills that gap very nicely. You can either take, a tactical squad with a melta gun and a combi melta, or you can take a big named dreadnought, and they're about 30 points different. So how awesome is that?
Coach just jumped in, man. Good to see you. Happy New Year. I hope you and your family are doing great. Nice Family Gamers 777. So, what people tell me about my Muller-Fiend comment is like, the Muller-Fiends suck. I'll just kill it turn 1. And I'm like, well, what if you don't?
Yeah. That's the biggest thing.
Then it's a problem for you. Then you have to start, maneuvering and get around it, trying to do something. I've now disrupted your plan.
My favorite thing with the Muller-Fiends, too, was I'm down your throat, kill them if you want to. If you waste all your shots to kill them, because they're still relatively durable with the 5-up and all that stuff. So you just put a lot of shots into something that you're not putting at other things. So he absorbed fire, or you left him alone and you shot at other things that are, in a lot of cases, more durable, and now you got him in your face the next turn as well. It's like, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's what made the Muller-Fiends, in my opinion, so awesome. Like, you have a choice: shoot or don't shoot. Either it kills you or that kills you.
Being legal everywhere, there was a period of time when the Lucius drop pod was not that great. Like it was a brief because it was awesome for a while. With being able to
before you could just assault straight out of deep strike, right?
Blood Angels couldn't. No, Blood Angels were the only ones that couldn't do it because they couldn't get the pod.
Well, because it could only be taken with certain.
It was everybody but Blood Angels.
Right.
No, it's basically what it was. And then Blood Angels could get it, then it was not that great for a little while, but now they put this shrouded rule on it, and now there's such an emphasis on time. You have to look at the game now. This is going to be my You guys tell me if you agree with me or not. When you start dissecting more of the game than it's just my pieces kill your pieces, and start looking at it as the game is a fixed amount of turns long, and every bit of time that I can shield myself and prevent my enemy from doing damage to me, then the better I'm doing in the game. Probably, that's giving me an advantage in the game. And the drop pod coming down, having to chew through it, when you're already playing probably a null deployment in the first place of some variety.
I mean, it's kind of like old school military tech. If I want to get into a firefight with you for 10 hours, I want you to not be able to kill anybody for 8 of those hours. I'm going to wear you out, and then those last 2 hours, I'm fresh, ready to go, and I'm in your face.
Yeah, you're rope-a-dope, essentially.
Yeah.
And the guy's gassed.
Yeah. So it's just that it's a lot of if you do research and look up military tactics, it translates into 40K really well. It's just the maneuver stuff's different. Don't think about maneuver at all.
Well, so I think what I mean, in a null deployment environment, and Space Marines can do this too. Again, the Skyhammer, just regular drop pod deployment. I think Imperial Fist with the bolter drill, they have a really powerful way to drop in and do this. I think Blood Angels work the best in terms of null deployment, just because of some of their reserve manipulation rules and the jump packs and all the rest of it. But what the Lucius pod allows you to do is, everything comes down, and it's just landed right there in front of you. Now it becomes a terrible target priority problem, because instead of shooting at the troops, or instead of shooting at the dreadnought that came out of a regular drop pod, they're concerned about the contemptor that's 7 inches away from them inside the drop pod, and he can climb his way out and then assault the next turn. And
you actually deploy
exactly out of the pod, because it's an open-topped assault vehicle is what it becomes. And again, not tipping my hand too much, but one of my favorite things to do in the whole world is put that little 20-point Legacy of Glory on the Lucius pod, so now it doesn't scatter when it arrives, right? So you've got a non-scattering Lucius pod, which allows you to put it precisely where you want it in order to give the maximum ability of the Shrouded. Or offensive-wise, now I have a precision striking, basically 2 heavy flamers. And that unit of Pathfinders that you were counting on to make that Storm Surge get D missiles is now barbecued to hell. And it
smoked fish, I love it.
Smoked fish, delicious. So yeah, I can't sing the praises of that enough. I see some one of our comments or questions was is it Theo perhaps? Do you see that, Paul? Something about on the right side of the Q&A, it says, I was almost thinking about pairing him with a Furioso and both in Lucius drop pods. Do it, dude. You will not be disappointed. Like I said, I'm now the proud owner of 5 Lucius drop pods for a reason.
Oh, you're a bold
5
man,
is strong.
Cotton.
5 is strong. Yeah, that's very strong.
I
2016 is the year of the Dreadnought. It's the year of the Dreadnought, guys.
Okay. Hey, you can make that prediction. I'm cool with that.
I had a buddy of mine, man, John Camacho. He placed 16th at LVO last year with all drop pod Space Wolves, or all drop pod Dreadnought Space Wolves, I should say.
I like that. I'm planning my 30K list for Blood Angels. Now, look, I don't know what the Rights of War are going to be. I have no idea what's going to be in the book. I just know what I like playing with currently in 30K, and I stand by the fact that you can play whatever you want. Yep. 2 of those things that I'm putting together right now are Contemptor Dreadnoughts. Close combat, two close combat Contemptor Dreadnoughts.
Oh, I love them. I'm a big fan of the K cannon, but I really feel like I just want to rip people's faces off.
Everybody is, man. Look, we got in the chat today where Adam is from the podcast is building an Eldar army as well. I don't know if that's supposed to be a secret, but who cares? Anyway, he's building Eldar. And he asked how to equip his jet bikes. And I'm like, put shuriken cannons on there.
Yep.
And I said, but the caveat, magnetize them up. They're plastic. They mag easy. All the sprues come with all the weapons now. So just play whatever you want whenever you want, magnetize it up so you can do whatever, because inevitably the rules will change and you'll probably hold on the army for a while.
Yeah.
So, and he said, I got a buddy calling me an idiot for wanting to take shuriken cannons. Like, well, ask him how's he going to kill Wraith Knights with his scatter lasers. Like, ask him how he's going to kill Terminators. Ask him how he's going to kill Storm Surge or a Super Tuner. I mean, like, just ask that dude what his plan is for that. Like, people, I've determined that people just like saying the phrase scat packs. They just do. They just like saying it.
Yeah, it's exciting to say.
It has nothing to do with what they actually do on the table. They're just kind of in love with the idea of throwing out 4-string stick shots.
Well, and then like too.
I mean,
the bikes are so fast, and then
to be fair,
the
Paul,
laser's long, man. I don't know. It's waste.
What you got, Andrew?
No, like, let's not. I mean, you and I both know why scat bikes are awesome, right? They are good. I'm not saying that shuriken cannons aren't good too. I think there's a place for a healthy mix of both, right? Because the poor man's rending is absolutely essential against those, those targets you were just talking about. But for being able to just kill stuff from 36 inches away, my cat's getting in on this. Sorry about that.
What do you kill? What do you kill from rhinos? Now I know rhinos exist. All right, what do you kill with those that something else in the Eldar doesn't already kill?
So what you can kill with Eldar scat, because the shuriken cannon is only 24-inch range, right?
It is. Yep.
On a 12-inch bike. So
isn't that it? So you're talking about 12 initial range. And then the assault move accounts for a capacity to jump into 36-inch range with a 12-inch move, and then on an average of a 7-inch roll, you're back out of any return fire. So against Tau, for example,
so big.
Yeah,
but you can be anywhere on it. So it outranges the shuriken cannon. Like, that's a huge advantage. The other thing too is it defeats light vehicles much more efficiently, like you said. Rhinos, etc. Get out of here, cat. And then, what is that shuriken cannon going to do against drop pods or knights?
It's still string 6.
Yeah,
but it's not as many shots, right?
It's one less shot.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's when you're playing a numbers game trying to roll 6s to get glances, one shot becomes a huge difference when you're looking at a 5-man squad, right? That's the difference between a dead drop pod and a drop pod that has 2 hull points on it.
It just doesn't kill, like, the difference between these two things. Now, because we're talking about a total of like 6 maybe additional shots throughout the whole army. This way, with a nice mix, right? So
yes, with a nice mix. So if you and I are both coming to the table thinking to ourselves, we would like a good mix of these two things, not one exclusively over the other.
Yeah, not one exclusively.
And what you and I are trying to do is convince the people at home to not take exclusively scat bikes.
I'm a 2-to-1 ratio guy. I like two squads of the cannons, 1 squad of the scat.
Okay.
And I would say that I'm probably the opposite. I'm probably 2-to-1 scat to cannons. So. Okay.
I stand by the fact that you're just not. It feels good to say that I've got all these shots and I'm going to do all this stuff, but the table's it just doesn't play out in reality that way, I don't think.
Yeah. To me, with the scatter laser, my issue with it is it's on a bike. A bike's fast. You're wasting that range. Like, why do I want 48 inches of effective shooting range on something that can move?
Now, maybe I'm bringing in too much of my personal experience. Yeah. I mean, I can just tell you that I've brought down hive tyrants with shuriken cannons. I've certainly put some wounds on riptides and wraith knights, and I've got things like warp spiders in there. So warp spiders go out there and do a lot of this work too that we're talking about.
And I think that's a huge component of it too, because I don't play Eldar, again, as integrity. Not a net lister, whatever. But I play a lot against Eldar. I play against Eldar a lot. And what I know is that scat bikes should be for scoring. Every Eldar list should come with a Farseer and 6 min squad of jet bikes, whether you take scat bikes or cannon bikes. I don't care. But they're for late game scoring. And then and what you just said, Paul, is right on the money. You need to be in their faces with warp spiders, because those dudes are super effective at killing those big nasties.
They're dumb. They
are silly.
Of Eldar, though, like that's the biggest thing that I've been learning with my playtesting lately, and and just diving into the book as hard as I can, is there's so much synergy with how Eldar plays. If I'm taking scatter lasers, I'm probably not taking swooping hawks. I'm probably taking warp spiders. Or if I'm taking more shuriken cannons, I'm probably taking more swooping hawks than I am warp spiders. Like there's like different dynamics.
I led us down a dark path, and I apologize. I just kind of wanted to talk about that how that the things that we kind of have as in our mind as being categorically better than other things are not necessarily the way we need to stay locked, and we need to be open as the game evolves.
Yeah. Think outside the box.
Casting that stuff.
Castword is awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like Castword is awesome, and that's not a choice that people take because we've already in our heads written it off.
Yeah.
Much like the whole Blood Angel Codex.
Yes, right, because I feel like for the last maybe 2.5 weeks, Force of Narrative has just had this infusion of Blood Angels talk. I'm not gonna say I'm responsible, but I'm kind of responsible. But
that has nothing to do with the 8,000 points I also have on the show.
No, but I've given you an excuse to talk about them.
You have, and I'll take any excuse.
Absolutely, I'm right there with you.
Collectively, we have 1,000,000 points of Blood Angels.
I love it. I do love it though, and I'm happy that the Sanguinary Guard talk that we did a couple episodes ago, it might even been in the last episode, has inspired some people to start building out their list and how to equip them and use them and get them more on the table. Because somebody's going to unlock something out there that we don't maybe not have seen. And anytime, and I do look at the Imperials as this whole big thing, and so I'm not saying that you should play all Blood Angels or all Space Wolves or whatever, and it should mix and match, but I mean, Dante and Sanguinary Guard, they look good on the table. What else do you want?
They're beastie as well.
Yeah. Throw that priest in there with that cool Angel's Wing relic. Yeah, you're on point.
I'm so sad. My friend who's coming up to South Carolina with me, who brought Dante to Warzone, is leaving Dante at home this time in favor of some stalkers and maybe in favor of what's that Space Marine formation with the Storm Raven and 2 Storm Talons?
Stormwing.
The Stormwing.
Yeah.
Love that formation, by the way.
I don't love it more than I love Dante.
Well,
I mean, it's just a different list, right? Like, when I'm playing not power armor, I don't bring Dante. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
Like if I'm playing Dark Eldar, I leave Dante at home. That's basically what this guy's doing.
He's coming over for dinner on Saturday to finalize the list and figure out what we need to do, and I'm going to try to dissuade him again. Try to get to take Dante.
Man, Dante just does so much work for me. I've won more games with Dante than I've lost. You know what I mean? Like
I've won more games with Dante in the new Codex than I played with Dante in the previous 4 years.
Yeah,
that's.
Some events are keeping all Lords of War in the same category, and they're given that kind of fake battle of attrition type rule or whatever, where they're saying if you put 3 wounds on a Lord of War, any Lord of War, that you get an additional victory point.
I'm okay with that.
I'm not okay with that.
I tabled you with Dante. I'm okay.
Now, look, yes. This exact same situation happened to me where the dude's got like 3 models left. But I'm beat to crapping back too.
Dante's your only model left.
Dante has 1 wound left, and he gets that additional victory point.
Yeah, I've been down that road. It sucks.
And I hate it. That's something that we can't. That's not a one-size-fits-all rule.
Well, I'm just so frustrated that they took. I mean, Games Workshop always tight with their language. Let me put it this way: I'm an attorney, and if I was as loose with my contract drafting language or any kind of litigation document as GW is with the way they define things, like malpractice, I'd be disbarred in a week. They're like, you're making shit up. And there's just no way to go about it. Like the fact that Gazgul Thraka and Logan's Christmas Sled and Dante have the same categorically defined rule as a Revenant Titan is preposterous. Right?
I was wondering where you were going with that. There it is.
Right? There's just no reason why that should happen.
Good point.
There should be stratification in between as if we wanted to discourage orc players more. They're like, definitely don't bring Gazgul Thranka because he's a 5-wound model, so that's 17 victory points or whatever.
Yeah, you just lost the game simply by deploying him.
Exactly. And like that's foolish. And like GW has created one-size-fits-all problems all over the place. They're loose with their language, and then it's up to TOs, and it's oftentimes very lazy TOs who don't feel like going through the list and drawing intelligent lines.
I mean, let me tell you, that's one of the reasons that I'm pretty much against changing the rules, because it's a slippery slope, and I'm going to define that because it's an easy thing to say. Because when I change something over here, it's like the butterfly effect. Over here, it impacted something I had no intention of it impacting, and so now I've got to change something over here. And then that does the same thing. So now I'm changing something here, and so we're creating these paradoxes of situations where I'm not saying that the leave it the way it is good either. I'm just saying that.
No, this is a different illustration, but the way I kind of understand it is Warhammer 40K is an ecosystem, right? And as soon as you take an animal out of that ecosystem, all right, we're going to take all the pythons out of this particular swamp. Well, now this particular fish is going to be king because there's not going to be this other thing that's naturally going to eat him, right? And so if you think of 40K as that ecosystem,
that's what happens in comp tournaments. As soon as you limit something in a force org or whatever, the exact same.
I 100% agree with that. But we have game wardens for a reason, right? And that's kind of the way I understand it. You've got invasive species, we'll call them, I don't know, Lords of War, and they just show up like a Wraith Knight or something like that. This is an invasive species. It's bad for the damn ecosystem. It's eating all the other fish. Like we're gonna Department of Natural Resources. Let's get this ish out of here. And I trust guys like you, guys like Kelly Wallace, guys like Neil Gilstrap. I trust their decision enough to support their events. If they're gonna game warden it, I'm going to trust their decisions, and that's why.
On the other side of that, the risk, so the tournament organizers assumes every ounce of risk involved in running that tournament most of the time.
My brain just exploded. I got to jump in with this.
Go ahead.
Change the Logans, the Gazguls, and all those dudes back to an HQ slot, but they take up 2 slots. Fixed. Done.
That's certainly something.
I don't. That's like the whole if I could just wave a magic wand to make one rules change to any part of 40K.
Well, that wouldn't be my magic wand wave.
No, I'm saying
too late.
But it reminds me of the magic wand wave because it's like I would make Land Raiders. They would have the super heavy rule and have 5 hull points. And
I guess we could, 2 wound Terminators, 1 more hull point on a Land Raider. I mean, there's all that wish listing, but. It's just the only reason I say that though is because it isn't fair. Exactly to your point, that Logan, especially the new Logan, F the new Logan.
The old Logan was badass.
He was a Lord of War. All right, he lived up to the name.
Yeah, if the old Logan had the same rules, or if we play him now, I would play him right now probably.
Yeah, God, that dude was so cool. But yeah, it's just the whole Lord of War thing in the name and the poison that comes out of people's mouths when you start saying it, it changes everything.
What would I do with the old Logan right now?
Centurions, hello.
While you think about that, I'm going to plug my computer in. Hopefully we'll be done talking about
it. We got 2 minutes before we're wrapping up.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old Logan, being able to give rules, fearless, and I mean, this new Centurions don't need relentless. They've got all that stuff built in.
Tank Hunter crap and all that stuff.
We forgot about Tank Hunter.
Yeah, I mean...
You mean like grab amps that reroll to wound and armor pen anyway?
Yeah.
Oh, touche. Well, you don't have to use the grab amps. Use different...
you do have to use it because you're never going to take anything else. Yeah. Like anyone who is puts anything else on the Centurion,
look,
please don't do that. Please don't.
I'm trying to get less grab on the field, guys. Yeah. I'm doing my part.
That's what Kelly's saying. Well, guys, thank y'all for helping us just kind of speed through this 1 hour of live game talk. I know, Andrew, it's only been about 40 minutes for you,
but yeah, I went too quick.
That's more than enough for the internet today. They don't
well, happy New Year, everybody. If you have not subscribed to this channel already, please do so. If you haven't found our new podcast feed in iTunes, please search for it there. I got some cool articles coming out on Bulls and on our ForgeNarrative.net. If you have not gone to ForgeNarrative.net, I hate calling these action items. We have articles there by everyone that's on the show right now currently. And it's going to be fun stuff. Lots of comments in the Blangel list we got. I'm sure hopefully we'll get more as we post more lists. I think Andrew's working on a Sweet Sister Battle list.
Yeah. Careful. It is an allied in Sisters of Battle list. Paul and I did talk about this. There's some stuff in there. I mean, full-blown Melta squads, 4 or 5 Meltas in a squad. And what's the name of the tank with the
Exorcist?
The Exorcist? Woo! That's fire.
Yeah,
somebody give me a codex to write a list from. I don't care which one.
Oh,
Orcs.
I'm gonna go with orcs. I'll go with orcs. That is not the first orc challenge I've gotten, but I will go with orcs.
Orcs is tough.
It's so tough to play. You can build a theme list all day long. The book is great for a theme list, but not so great for a theme list that's going to win a tournament. But I challenge accepted.
Yeah,
yeah. John says he runs Gabriel Seth. Yes, you are screwed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the other Lord of War. The other Lord of War in the Blood Angels Codex.
Such a cool model. Such terrible rules.
Well, Gabriel Seth actually kind of reminds me of a Baneblade in a lot of ways. Very Lord of War-y.
I just got 2 Necrons and Skitarii. I'm going to write these down so I don't forget.
Yeah, my thing was Necrons.
Okay.
That's where I was kind of leaning.
Thank you all very much for the suggestions. Guys, we're going to wrap it up. It's 11:01. Happy New Year, everybody. I'll see y'all next week. Listen to us this week for the podcast.
Get her done.
Good to see y'all.